Well, good morning. Another week of fair game Laguna Beach. As always, Tom Johnson with our mayor, Alex Rounaghi. Alex, so good to see you.
Great to see you as always, Tom.
Gosh, here we are, end of summer. I mean, these days go by fast. I don't know how, you're a lot younger than I am, so I don't know if you get the same feeling, but it just seems like the world goes by so fast. Here we are, approaching Labor Day weekend, kind of the traditional end of summer. And it
Yep.
used to be in the old days, long before you were born, Mayor, Labor Day was used for political speeches and rallies around the country and things like that. Kind of different now. What's going on around Laguna Beach this weekend that people can look forward to?
Yeah, so we have the on Monday we have our traditional Laguna Beach Fire Department annual pancake breakfast starting at 7 a.m. where you can enjoy pancakes hot off the griddle, savory sausages, and fresh orange juice. And I want to thank Ivan and Mozambique and of course our firefighters and the association for doing this. It's always a great event and the pancakes are very good. So I'll be there and I look forward to that. And then, a point of personal privilege, I guess. I grew up going in South Laguna, going to South Swell Donuts, and we are celebrating the 30th anniversary of that business on Saturdays at 11 o'clock.
So give me a number. How many donuts have you had?
That's a good question. I don't
South
know.
Swell Donut. I
So
mean, if you told me you were, if you've been there for many of those 30 years,
I've been
that's
there for all those 30 years. Yeah.
a fair piece of donuts, donut eating. So good for you.
It's a good point. It's a cool local business and I think that's what makes Laguna Beach
And what
cool is
time's
to have
that
this
ribbon cutting?
11 o'clock.
11 o'clock. Okay, something good to look forward to. Um, Also, we're talking about different things happening and everything. I am getting some rumblings about, the Irvine Bowl getting kind of recharged. And I know that's something that has been big on your mind.
Yes.
And even though the Festival of Arts closes this week and, the pageant is last night is Friday night, um, other things are happening with the Irvine Bowl. Anything you could share with us?
Absolutely. Well, yeah. So as you know, Tom, and as your listeners probably know, Councilmember Kemp and I serve on the Irvine Bowl Policy Committee, and one of our priorities, and this has been a long-term city priority, has been how do we activate that space? Because it's really a world-class concert venue, and how do we have more year-round usage? And so what we have been working on is we went up to the Santa Barbara Bowl in July and had a chance to meet with their team up there, watch a concert and really see kind of what the Irvine Bowl could be. And so we've been working with, our working group on how do we implement, how do we come up with some recommendations that we can collaboratively work through with the Festival of the Arts on how we actually create the policies to, have more concerts during the off-season times. And there will be an exciting update. There's a concert as in early November as part of the Coast Film Festival. And I believe there will be a special announcement about who will be performing at that concert in early September. So everyone can look forward to that and be ready to buy a ticket quickly because I imagine when people hear who's coming, tickets will go quickly. But it's very exciting to see, what can happen at the Irvine Bowl when we have, world-class concerts there. And then the next step is, of course, how do we, implement policies that allow for that going forward. I think it's a great thing for our residents and our community at large.
So one of the difficulties of being mayor is, having to make sometimes the tough decisions. The benefit of being the mayor is that insight knowledge. So when you're telling people, get ready to pull the lever on getting your tickets, something we don't, but it sounds exciting. So we'll look forward to that. Switching gears for a second, on another topic, water. Water is always big. I know that there's a lot of infrastructure need and stuff always in cities. What's going on in Laguna Beach?
Yeah, so I mean, It's funny because what's cool about my role is I get to talk about, concerts at the Irvine Bowl and then talk about water infrastructure, which
Yeah, a
is
high to a low.
well, and ultimately, I mean, the main job of local government is essentially number one, public safety, and I think number two is infrastructure. And how do you make sure that you're making the long-term investments for your infrastructure? Something like water and sewer, it's not the kinds of things that people think about every day, nor should they. But when something goes wrong, that's when you have to start thinking about it. And we live in California, in Southern California, we're a part of the metropolitan water system where we get right now, the city of Laguna Beach gets imported water. 100% of our water is imported from the Colorado River and Northern California Water Project. I'm actually going to on an inspection to the Colorado River in September to check that out. But we really don't want to be in a position where we're relying on 100% imported water just because, why would we want to rely on outside forces when we could have independence? And so in Laguna Beach, we actually have water rights because um, in 1925, the water district was formed 100 years ago. And what they did, and this is why Laguna Beach was able to be created, was they pretended to be duck hunters and they went to Huntington Beach. And what they actually were doing was getting access to the groundwater basin. And that, we had water through that system. That went away as salt water breached it. But what's cool about water rights is that they don't go away. So what we're doing now is we're partnering with the city of Newport Beach and we've been working closely with their mayor and mayor pro tem on negotiating a deal in which when we bought a piece of land in Fountain Valley where we're going to be able to get roughly 60% of our water supply for the water district through Fountain Valley in partnership with Newport, and that will reduce costs for ratepayers by around $1 million a year. But more importantly, when that's important, but more importantly, it will allow us to have local reliability. We're also working with South Coast Water District on on their Doheny desalination project. And so we're going to be getting the cost estimates of that, I believe, in September. So with those two projects, we're going to be basically taking the city from 100% imported water to close to 100% in terms of local water reliability, which I think is very important when we look at the next 100 years of our city and how do we keep costs down while investing in our infrastructure. So I'm excited about that. We're as residents may know, Laguna Beach County Water District is a subsidiary of the city of Laguna Beach. So I'm the president of the water district, and the council acts as the board, and so this has been a big focus of ours, and I look forward to, hopefully we'll have a ceremony in Crystal Cove, which is like the border between Newport Beach and Laguna Beach later this year when we formalize this agreement and get the approvals in Fountain Valley.
God bless the early duck hunters of
I
Laguna Beach.
know. What a great story.
Kind of a funny story, but it's amazing how that stuff works. And not only that, but really the foresight of people realizing what's going to be important and not just, worrying about the next week of what they need to do. So
I
pretty
think that's such a good point, Tom, because I think in my view, like that's the kind of government leader that I want to be is thinking about, the next, not just in the day to day, because we get wrapped up in day to day issues, right? But at the end of the day, what you really, I think, effective leadership is all about long-term stewardship and vision. And so that's why we were able to have Laguna Beach because those duck hunters, in our early, the early founders of Laguna Beach had that vision. And so it's incumbent on all of us in elected office, I think to think about, not just today or tomorrow, but really beyond that. And so that in, 50 or 100 years, they're looking back and they're saying, oh, that was, those were some very smart decisions that put the city on a course, for the future.
so I appreciate that, and I appreciate you working on that kind of stuff. I'm going to come out. I'm going to throw one from left field right here
Go ahead.
that's been on my mind. So I was watching TV late last night after the tragic things that happened in Minneapolis, um, and it's just unfathomable.
Devastating.
And one of the real touching things to me was they showed a picture of the mayor sitting on the steps, on some steps with his head kind of tucked down, like you could tell he had, serious contemplation and sadness, going on in his own heart and things like that. What does something like that do to you as a mayor of a city? I mean, I think Laguna Beach is a lot different, but what kind of thoughts go through your mind on something like that?
Well, I think my first thought is one of just sympathy and just, thinking about the victims, their families, and just everyone impacted, the whole community that's impacted by this. And then I think where my head goes to next is sort of on, from a policy perspective. And as I said earlier, public safety is the number one role of local government. And so that requires us to fully fund our law enforcement, ensuring that we give them the tools that they need. But I think at the national level, what we really need more of is we need common sense, gun safety laws. And what I don't like about the way that the debates about gun control have taken place is they've just been based on irrationality as opposed to how do you get everyone in the room and come up with solutions. And again, we don't know if that would have prevented this tragedy, but we do know that, universal background checks are something that should be part of the law. And so the fact that that is not the case, I find deeply frustrating. And it's something that 90% of the American people support. So I would like to have more rational discussions at the national level and at all levels of government about how can we, come up with the right, um, you know, laws that protect the Second Amendment while still allowing for people to live safely in their communities and not just have partisan political games rule the day.
Right. Well said. And hopefully those will be things that will come out of a tragedy like this. Hopefully something comes out of a tragedy like this as people attempt to recover. Anyway, Mayor, always great talking to you. Long weekend ahead. I encourage people to get out there. As I said, the pageant closes Friday night. If you haven't seen it, get out there. Still some tickets left. Get out to the pancake breakfast, have some fun. Hopefully the weather holds and we have some hot days and people can enjoy the beach. See you around town, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Always a pleasure.